Welcome to the Money Watch Show. It's Saturday, June 28th. Oh my goodness, coming to the end of the first half of the year. It's crazy. If you are talking to somebody and you're wondering, like you ask a question like, oh, what are you doing for your 401k? Or you've got a question about like, what's your 529 plan? Or gosh, is this financial advisor who's coming after me looking for my business? Is this worth it? If there's something going on in your life that requires a little bit of assistance, hey, this is a program for you. This is a program that is trying to help you build your financial blocks, those building blocks, and go from there. I am joined by my co-host, Mark Talercio. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Jill. Happy last weekend in June.
Amazing. Tomorrow is going to be the New York City Pride March. I will not be attending because I won't be in town. But so also happy end of Pride Month for all of us.
I was on my roof deck the other night, and all the buildings across the way in New York City, all the high rises, they were all they were all lit up as a rainbow. It was very nice.
See, because in your neighborhood it's only Italian flags and American flags, not so many pride flags.
No, there's not many pride flags. A lot of Italians.
You know what I'm going to do? I have to order a new, because we have a beautiful American flag that we fly. It's gorgeous, and I want to get a pride flag that we fly. Just want to make sure that goes up. And so that's my next thing to do. Make sure I get one of those. I don't have one. So Mark, on our other program, which is called Jill on Money, Monday through Friday, Jill on Money, which you can subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts or on the Odyssey app, just like this program. On that podcast, we get so many retirement questions. And I feel like it's hard for people to get their minds around like how important thinking and planning for retirement is. There are a lot of calculators out there when you think about saving for retirement, but sometimes life kind of gets in the way. And what I mean by that is that there are so many people who are planning for retirement and then something occurs and it throws a wrench in it. And sometimes that wrench is you lose your job before you think you were planning to. Sometimes it's your family needs help. And so I think that one of the nice parts of doing some planning when everything is good is that you can have some baseline to be able to conduct planning. Because planning, it's not an event, it is an ongoing journey. And so what I think would be helpful for a lot of people is to get something down. And then when things change, you can see how it impacts your life. Now, last year, at the end of, it was, I guess, mostly during the fall, I did a few different segments on CBS Evening News about retirement in your 40s, in your 50s, and your 60s. We found a character for each of those decades. And then we went and talked to them about what they were thinking about. And so we decided it would be kind of interesting to go back to one of them who was sort of on the precipice of retirement to see what was going on for them now. So we went back to this really nice couple in Boston and we listened to them. And it was right as the tariff situation was going on. There was a lot of cuts going on, and there was like a real palpable anxiety that was coming out of the wife and the couple. I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk on the other side of that segment. Mark and I will talk about what it is that you really need to be considering as you're looking at your own retirement, especially if your life has changed. So Mark, let's play the segment and then you and I will talk on the other side. Dinner at the Gomez home outside Boston provides a textbook image of the sandwich generation. 3 sets of relatives living under one roof.
A club sandwich has a lot of layers, and we have a lot of layers.
It's not the easiest way to save for retirement, as they told us when we first met them last year. Back then, their nest egg was healthy and growing. Stocks were climbing, hitting an all-time high by February of this year. But they cratered with the start of the trade war in April, only to climb back and recover most of the losses.
I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. You just hope that if we're going to be on the downturn now, will we be on the upturn when we decide to retire?
Today, like millions of Americans, Alicia, 57, and Chu, 59, are experiencing the waves of an uncertain, seesawing market. There was about almost a 20% slide. Mm-hmm. Did you feel like you could go through that again?
I don't want to go through it again. If you're paying attention to the market, you're going through it every day.
43 million people are about that age.
These gyrations can trigger rash decisions, says labor economist Teresa Ghilarducci of the New School for Social Research.
We have a name for living through that kind of volatility, and it's called scarring.
How do I help those folks or prevent that scarring from causing them to act
in a way that's
detrimental?
In times of financial crisis, do not talk to your friends or your family about what to do. Take a breath, take a minute, and rely on expert advice.
Alicia, who holds down 2 jobs, had thought maybe she'd cut back work at 62. Chu, who works in logistics, thought 65. Now they've adjusted that mindset.
It's probably going to be 67 at least. I think there's still a lot of unknowns.
Would you stop putting money in your retirement accounts? Would you pull back on funding something else?
The first place would be pull back on the retirement funding, because we are, maxing that out.
Adding to their anxiety, fear that the Social Security system could run dry. There's been a 13% jump this year in people claiming retirement benefits early, despite permanently reduced payouts. Would that then argue that you should claim Social Security early? Because
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Wait for the maximum benefit. Don't haircut yourself now, anticipating it will be cut later.
The Gomez's say their retirement investments are up by about 3% this year, so they'll simply sit tight and work hard to hold on to their jobs.
You can only take so many hits. We don't have do-over time.
No.
So, Mark, when you're thinking about retirement, there are so many different inputs to this, but I think the first part is really always the hardest part, and that is to figure out how much money you are spending. And why this becomes so important is that without that number, we're kind of flying blind, right? I mean, you always hear me say like, well, how much money do you spend? And it's whether you have a gazillion dollars or not so much money. What do you think is the best way to track that, Mark, the amount of money that you're spending?
Well, yes, you're right. First of all, that is like the absolute key ingredient. Without that, you're flying blind. I'm in the minority here. I realize that I'm not the majority. But this is kind of like, this is kind of all I do. So our household, we have a spreadsheet and we kind of just track our expenses on a monthly basis. Who paid for what? We have like different categories under which things fall. And by doing that, it kind of just gives us a good sense. I mean, we know how much we're spending each month. So we have a good sense of what we need to sustain our current lifestyles. But again, I know that's kind of unrealistic for most people to do that. I'm a bit of a nerd that way, but that's what we do. But I really think in some way, shape or form, you got to have an idea of what's coming in and what's going out and what's being spent where.
Yeah. And by the way, one of the things that you can do is you can use an app. You can look at your bank. Many banks have really good apps they incorporate. There are other apps that are out there and you can use it and you can track that spending in some generalized way. Again, without that number, it's almost impossible to do your retirement planning. So essentially, you kind of go through this in a methodical way. The methodical way starts with how much money am I spending? That's number one. And now if you're going to use some sort of retirement calculator, it will basically say, how old are you? How much money do you earn? How much money do you have saved? How much money do you put away in terms of your contributions? And then many calculators will then say, what do you think you'll spend in retirement? And I want you to be crystal clear. There used to be a rule of thumb, and you'll see this in a lot of calculators. Like if you go to a calculator, it'll say they're going to assume 70% of your pre-retirement income. Here's my very best suggestion, the hidden secret that is much easier. And that is, do not use 70%, use 100%, because you would be far better off just looking at that. Because whatever you think you're going to need, I think what we always underestimate is the out-of-pocket cost of healthcare. It's a ridiculous amount of money that you spend on unreimbursed healthcare in your retirement. So don't get a surprise. Maybe, okay, if you want to reduce your monthly budget, maybe you'll reduce it by 90%. But for most people, you're going to spend what you spend now in the future. If you've got other income, like, I don't know, if you have, maybe you'll have a pension, maybe you're going to have an ability to collect money from rental property. That's all great. But then you're going to have to do something funny, which is like, you're going to have to say, what's my life expectancy? You know what? If you're under the age of 40, use 95. And if you're over the age of 40, maybe 45. Mark, what do you use for life expectancy? 90 or 95?
Oh, me? No, I'm ultra conservative. I always go to 100.
Okay. So Mark's 45. So if you're under 45, use 100. And if you're over 45, use like somewhere between 95 and 90. Okay. Then it's going to ask you your pre-retirement rate of return. How much money do you think you're earning on your money? Listen, it's been great for the last 10 years. If you want to be conservative, you can use 6. And if you want to be a little bit more market-based, it's 8. But I wouldn't go beyond that. And then use an inflation rate. An inflation rate is very hard. We've just gone through a crazy inflationary period. Inflation is going to move around. But if you want to be safe, use 3% inflation. That's probably fine, 3.5%. And get your numbers. And you got your retirement calculator. Now, Mark, let's say you come up short. Would you rather, what should we do? Should we just essentially use a higher rate of return?
Yeah, let's just assume that's going to happen. I mean, that's why it's good to know these numbers, because if you think that you're going to need like $10,000 a month to live on in retirement, and you're currently only have X, it helps you determine what you need to get to generate that money on a monthly basis. So, maybe you need to start cutting back somewhere else so you can put more into retirement. I mean, there's different ways to solve a problem, but assuming a higher rate of return, no, that's not the way to do it.
No. I really think that's a bad idea. I know people do it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. So what else do people need to think about, Mark?
I wouldn't also automatically include the equity in your house.
Oh, I definitely would not.
A lot of people
not.
Always factor that in. I never, even when I'm doing my own numbers, I mean, we own properties, I never factor that into the equation.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's dangerous to do that. But do think about this. A lot of people, like in our segment, a lot of people are taking care of their kids for a much longer period of time. So that's why I say, if you're, a lot of people say to me, well, my kids will be gone, I won't be spending the money. Maybe you will. So don't assume the best. I almost feel like it's great to be optimistic with a quality I don't have. I'm optimistic, really, generally speaking. I'm optimistic about most people and their intentions, but about conditions in the world, I don't want to assume only the best case. I really want to make sure that people are being sober in their analysis. And you play with the numbers and you say, hey, maybe I can put a little bit more money into my retirement account, and maybe I'll put a little less money in my 529 account. Do include money that you think you're going to inherit. If you do come from a wealthy family, sure, put that in. But when you're doing this, you now have a baseline. And you can react to different things that occur. And that is why I love planning so much. It really does help you manage the changes that come from just living your life. And that is kind of where we are. You can't plan. It doesn't always work to plan, right? We have to be clear that there are going to be times in your life where it's not going to work out perfectly. It's going to work out okay. It's going to work out rotten. You're going to have some bad luck. Let's build it into the plan and then go back to that plan every year. You don't have to do it more than that. Just once a year, go to the plan. That's it. All right. Deep breath. All good. Anything else to add, Mark? You done? Yes. Namaste. Well, that's right. Gang, if you want us to help you with these retirement kinds of calculations, get in touch with us. Go to JillOnMoney.com. Click the Contact Us button. Write us a note. And if you're really young and you don't know where to start, we are here to help you. Let us help you with this. Really, we're happy to do it. Hey, you can subscribe to us on the Odyssey app, gang, and wherever you get your favorite podcast, that's true too. But Odyssey, they're the ones who distribute us, and we're very happy about that. Mark Talercio is my co-host, executive producer, and king of all things web. We drop our episodes on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays. If you can't get enough of us here, then do subscribe to Jill on Money. That's Monday through Friday. Very easy. You can get us 7 days a week. And we are very delighted that you do so. Try to lift someone up. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.